All right, let's dive into something kind of interesting today. You know all about those juicy workplace relationships? Well, you sent us this article all about it from the Unit Consulting, that HR firm down in Texas.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they help out small to mid-sized businesses with all kinds of HR stuff.
Makes sense.
So anyway, the article's called Workplace Relationships, Creating a Fraternization Policy.
Interesting.
Now, before we go any further, I
Okay.
got to know,
What's that?
what exactly is a fraternization policy?
So a fraternization policy, it's basically like a set of rules, right?
Okay.
And these rules, they lay down the law about relationships at work,
Gotcha.
between employees, like how to handle them.
Oh, I see.
Because think about it, when you've got people dating at work, things can get kind of messy.
For sure, especially if like a boss is dating someone they supervise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a huge red flag, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about the conflicts of interest, the potential for favoritism, or even, worse,
Like what?
harassment or retaliation if things go south.
Yikes. That sounds like a legal nightmare.
It can be. And, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC,
Yeah.
they're really strict about this stuff.
What do they say?
Basically, employers are responsible for making sure the workplace is free from all that stuff.
Like harassment and favoritism and all that.
Exactly. And a fraternization policy is a big part of making that happen.
Okay, so I'm starting to see why this is important. But what if a company doesn't have one of these policies? What's the worst that could happen?
Oh boy, where do I even begin? You're opening yourself up to a whole world of trouble. Seriously, it's not just about awkward breakup drama in the office kitchen.
Bigger than that.
Way bigger. Like, think lawsuits, damaged reputation, employees feeling unsafe or like they can't speak up.
Wow, okay, I'm convinced. So a solid workplace relationship policy isn't just about being a buzzkill. It's about protecting the entire company from lawsuits and all that.
You got it.
So let's talk about the specifics here.
Okay.
What does a good policy actually look like?
Well, this article from the Unit Consulting does a pretty good job laying it all out.
Okay, cool.
One of the first things they emphasize is being super clear about what types of relationships are covered.
Right, because relationship can be a pretty broad term.
Exactly. So you got to spell it out, Is it just romantic relationships? What about close friendships?
Yeah, what about those?
Or family members working together?
Oh, right. That can get tricky, too.
It can, and it all needs to be crystal clear in the policy.
So everyone knows where they stand.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got clear definitions. What's next?
Disclosure. Mandatory disclosure.
Yeah.
Basically, the policy should say that employees have to tell HR if they're in a relationship that, could be a problem.
Like if it could create a conflict of interest.
Exactly. And this is especially important for, relationships between supervisors and their direct reports.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, think about it. If your boss is dating your coworker, how fair are those performance reviews going to be?
Probably not very fair.
Exactly. So transparency is key.
Makes sense. But wouldn't some people be, hesitant to disclose, what if they're worried it could affect their job?
Right, and that's why a good policy also includes, stuff about confidentiality
Okay.
and protection from retaliation.
Got it.
People need to feel safe coming forward, without worrying that they're going to get punished.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not about punishing people for having relationships. It's about managing the potential problems.
Okay, I'm with you. So clear definitions, mandatory disclosure. What else?
Well, this one's a bit controversial, but the article really pushes for this.
What's that?
Prohibiting relationships between supervisors and their direct reports.
Like completely forbidding them.
Yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's a tough stance, I know, but it can prevent a lot of headaches down the line.
Yeah, I guess when you think about the power dynamics.
Yeah, it's just too risky.
Too much potential for things to go bad.
And even if those relationships are, completely off limits, you still need a plan for dealing with harassment and retaliation.
Because even if a relationship starts out okay, things can change, right?
It's exactly. And a breakup can lead to all sorts of problems.
So you need a system in place to handle those situations fairly.
You got it. And that means having a clear process for reporting concerns and making sure that people know they can speak up without fear of, getting in trouble.
Right. So the policy should outline what's considered inappropriate behavior and how to report it.
Exactly. It's about protecting everyone, regardless of their relationship status.
I like that. So we've covered defining relationships, disclosure, and then the tricky part with supervisors and their reports Anything else?
One last thing. Even in situations where, relationships are allowed, you still need to set some ground rules. Professional conduct.
So, like, no making out in the copy room.
Pretty
Oh.
much. Keep the PDA out of the office.
Okay.
Don't gossip about your personal life at work. And definitely don't let your relationship affect how you do your job.
Makes sense. Keep it professional no matter what.
Exactly. Professionalism should always be the top priority.
I like that. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
but it's clear that having a good workplace relationship policy is crucial.
It really is.
It protects the company, it protects the employees, and it just makes everything run smoother.
Absolutely. It's a win-win for everyone.
Okay, so we've talked about the what of a fraternization policy.
Right.
Now I want to dig into the how.
Okay.
How do companies actually put these policies into practice?
Good question. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about after the break.
Stay tuned.
It's interesting because we've been focusing on, the potential downsides of workplace relationships.
Yeah, the risks and all that.
Right. But what about the good stuff?
Oh, like when people actually find love at work.
Exactly. It happens all the time. I mean, think about all the couples who met at work and ended up, getting married, having families.
Yeah, there are tons of those stories.
So it's not about, completely shutting down relationships.
More like managing them responsibly.
Exactly. It's about creating a framework where relationships can exist.
Without, blowing up the company.
Exactly. So how do we do that? How do we balance, the company's interests with the employees' personal lives?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, I think it starts with a mindset shift.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean?
Instead of approaching it from a place of fear and restriction,
Uh-huh.
we need to focus on respect and open communication.
Okay, I like that.
Think about it. When people feel respected and valued,
Yeah,
they're less likely to do things that could harm others or the company, right?
that makes sense.
So it's about building a culture of trust.
Where people feel comfortable being themselves.
Exactly. And feeling safe to, speak up if they have concerns.
So how do we do that? How do we create that kind of environment?
Well, one way is to establish clear channels for communication.
Oh, yeah.
Encourage people to talk to HR if they have issues.
About anything.
Yeah, whether it's a potential conflict of interest
Mm.
or if they feel uncomfortable about something.
Got it. But what if people are afraid to go to HR?
That's where leadership comes in.
Okay.
It's not enough to just have an open door policy,
Right.
Leaders need to show that they actually care.
They have to listen to their employees.
Exactly. And act on their feedback.
Lead by example, basically.
You got it. And it's not just about, top-down communication.
What else is there?
Peer-to-peer communication is just as important.
Like between coworkers.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to talk to a colleague or a mentor than to go straight to a manager, right?
Like that makes sense.
So it's about fostering a sense of community.
Where people feel connected to each other.
Exactly. And that can be done through, team building activities, social events, even just informal chats.
Yeah, just creating those opportunities for people to connect.
Exactly. And when people feel connected,
They're more likely to support each other.
they'll work through problems together.
Okay, so we've got open communication, a strong sense of community. Anything else?
Well, even in the best workplaces, conflicts can still happen, right?
And that's true.
So it's important to have a clear process for resolving those conflicts.
So if a relationship does go sour, or if there are accusations of favoritism or harassment,
Exactly. You need a system in place to address those issues.
fairly and effectively.
Exactly. And this is where HR comes in.
Oh,
They can act as a neutral third party.
to make sure everyone is treated fairly.
Exactly. And that the company is following the right procedures.
So HR plays a huge role in all of this.
They really do. They're the experts in navigating these complex situations.
Okay, so we've talked about communication, community, conflict resolution, and the importance of HR. Is there anything else we need to consider?
I think one final point that's really important is investing in personal and professional growth.
Interesting.
When people feel like they're learning and growing, they're more engaged and invested in their work,
Uh-huh.
and that can lead to stronger, more positive relationships.
It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly. When companies invest in their employees' development, they're creating a more fulfilling and supportive environment.
Which benefits everyone.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
So it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff. It's about actively creating a positive workplace.
You got it. It's about fostering growth and empowerment.
And that makes a huge difference.
It really does. It creates a workplace where people feel connected, valued, and inspired to do their best work.
I love that.
So we've talked a lot about, the big picture stuff,
Yeah, the policies, the legal risks.
all that. But
Mhm.
what about, the everyday stuff.
What do you mean?
Like, what can I do as an individual to make my workplace better?
That's a great question.
For relationships?
Well, I think that starts with self-awareness.
Okay.
Like, think about how you communicate,
Yeah.
how you set boundaries,
Yeah.
and how your actions affect the people around you.
Right.
Are you approachable? Do you listen to others?
Yeah.
Do you create a respectful environment?
I see what you mean.
Those little things, they really add up.
It's like company culture is made up of all these individual interactions.
Exactly. And if you see something that's, not right,
Yeah.
don't just ignore it.
Right.
Speak up.
But like respectfully.
Of course, respect and constructively.
Yeah. You might be surprised at the impact you can have.
So it's not just about romantic relationships, right?
No, not at all.
It's about all the connections we make at work.
Friendships, mentorships, just being there for each other.
Those little moments of support,
They make a difference.
they really do.
And they make work so much more, enjoyable
For sure.
when you
Okay.
feel like you're part of a community.
Exactly.
So let's be intentional about the relationships we build at work.
I like that.
Let's be kind, let's communicate, let's support each other.
Those small acts of connection.
They can have a huge impact.
Yeah. And speaking of support,
Yeah.
remember that HR firm we talked about?
The unit consulting.
Yeah, them. They seem like they really know their stuff.
They do. They can help with, creating policies, training managers.
Good stuff.
All of it. They work with businesses of all sizes.
They're based in Texas, right?
Right here in the Lone Star State.
So if you're in Texas and need some help building a better workplace,
Give them a call.
their number is 956-230-6866.
They'd be happy to help.
All right, well, that wraps up our deep dive into workplace relationships.
It's been fun.
It has. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
See ya.